Well, here we are again up here in the canyon. I gotta tell you, it is so nice that the snow is starting to melt off and that we can get back out here into the upper parts of the canyons and look around and just enjoy nature and enjoy the calm peace and serenity that there is to offer up here. More than anything, it's almost a safe haven from all the BS of the day-to-day grind, work and everything else that we all have to put up with, tolerate in some instances and cases. What better way to detox and to regroup and gather yourself back together from the day-to-day grind than to be up here. It's nice. I've been up here for the last couple weeks, probably 2 or 3 times a week, and just waiting for all this snow to melt off. And finally, the Forest Service has opened up the gates and able to get back up here in the higher country and just enjoy being back up here. I'm really excited for this summer. I'm excited for the opportunity that I'm going to have in conjunction with many others who I've come in contact with over the winter months to get out here and do some really, really intense explorations, expeditions, not only here in our local canyons, but maybe a couple hours away in the higher Uintas and maybe up in further northern Utah in the higher Uintas. I'm really excited. I think people are crazy, but I've actually been contemplating about the idea of hitting the Uintas maybe for a 4 or 5 day backpacking trip up kind of by Skinwalker Ranch area. A lot of activity up there, aerial phenomena, and just things that would defy belief running around on the ground. So maybe aside from Bigfoot, maybe some other things we'll be seeing up in there. Who knows? I'm sure there's plenty of stuff here, local. But anyways, it's kind of been a fascination point for me to get up there by Skinwalker Ranch and get up into the Uintas up in that portion of the state and just kind of see how things are. I know for a fact you have to trek your way in through there up in those forests, and that's what I think is a better opportunity to come across anything that we're set out to find. So anyhow, I'm really excited for that. I'm excited that this summer is here. I've just kind of been dormant during this winter months, and boy, there's just, for you people who enjoy getting in the outdoors and being out in the woods and so on and so forth, you'll get what I'm saying. It's a nice sunny day today, and just loving it. But today's focus, I want to kind of go back a couple of videos when myself, Justin, his son Zach, and we had a couple of others, including my son, where we were up in Bear Canyon. And, we've had a couple of weeks now to contemplate and to kind of digest everything that went on during our little night expedition up in there. And I got to tell you, I'm still as profounded today as I was the night of. And I know that historically up in Bear Canyon, there's been a lot of sightings. There's been a lot of indicators such as prints, tree structures, tree breaks, noises, things of that nature that have been encountered by folks who have either been hiking up there, camping up there, or just recreating up there. Going back to that night, I've had this time to digest it, and still to this day, I really have no idea what it was that occurred that night. I don't want to just jump and say that yes, it was a Bigfoot, yes, it was that, because I didn't see it. But knowing the position of where everybody was seated at the point in time of when the rock was actually pulled from the ground and thrown towards Dalton, who was hit in the back of the head, I know for a fact that that rock just did not come out on its own. It had to have been pried out. It had to. In my investigation of it, and with common sense and with physics alone, there was no way that that rock, the size of big, pretty considerable size rock as shown in that video, it did not come out on its own. It was intentionally pulled out from the ground and it was rolled down that mountain side or hillside, and it was intentionally hit, or with the purpose to hit Dalton, or whoever for that matter would have been in that position. In this case, it was Dalton, to be hit square in the back of the head. Thank goodness he had some protection over his head in terms of extra hats and so on and so forth to protect the initial blunt force trauma from that rock. Otherwise, guaranteed that that rock would have opened up his head. So in that sense, I'm grateful and we're lucky. But knowing where everybody was positioned and knowing that when this actually occurred, we were all in our positions, and this had occurred approximately 10 to 15 minutes after we'd been in our positions, so there was no movement. None of us had been changing our location. And then for this rock, where we discovered where it had come out of the ground, there was nobody in that position or even remotely close by to that position. And so it begs the question as to what was it? In talking with Dalton and in talking with his friend Tim, who initially heard the rock coming down and then alerted Dalton, hey, there's a rock coming down, watch out. But before Dalton could react, that rock or boulder, I'm just going to refer to it as a boulder because that's what he essentially was, hit Dalton in the back of the head. After kind of regaining his marbles and coming to again, Dalton assumed that it was Justin, who was higher up from his location, that had maybe just kicked a rock loose, and therefore that rock rolled down and hit him in the back of the head. Therefore, he said nothing in the beginning. He just passed it off initially. But that makes no sense, and it didn't. And that's not what happened, because Justin was clearly in his position, which was nowhere near where Dalton and his friend Tim were. In talking to Dalton afterward, he stated that both him and Tim had heard some footsteps, some rustling, some tree movement behind him, but they both had assumed that it was one of our other guys, Justin, who was just moving into position. But that wasn't the case. He was already in position. And that the rock that was kicked loose or pried out of the ground, initially they thought that it was him. Anybody with common sense, half a brain, whatever you want to call it, knows that if you're going to kick a rock loose, furthermore, a boulder this size, knowing the positioning of your other people, you're going to yell, hey, rock, hey, something's coming down the mountain, watch your heads, this and that. Nothing of that nature was said or done because there wasn't a need for it, because everybody was in their positions. What was it that pried that rock out of its position and rolled it perfectly? It's hard enough to get a perfect strike in a bowling alley, let alone pull a rock out, roll it down a hillside where there's debris, trees, so on and so forth in the middle of the path of travel, and to directly hit somebody in the back of the head. It defies reasoning. What was it? I don't know. I do not know. Having gone back up there, though, on several occasions, we filmed, we've taken pictures, we did some aerial shots with the drone just to kind of get a better idea of kind of the surrounding area. There is a wildlife path that was above us, probably about 60, 70 yards above us, and could have very well be plausible that whatever it was flanking us as we were hiking up Bear Canyon Trail, was whatever it was out there flanking us from the very beginning, from base camp all the way up that trailhead. And then when we decided to take our positions, black out, and to be as silent as humanly possible, that was when it decided, whatever it was, to make its presence known. Was it a ploy to get out of there by distracting us, by rolling this rock down there, hitting Dalton in the head, and for us to focus our attention on him, obviously, looking for head injuries, trauma, or anything like that, making sure he's okay while it made a clean getaway. Or on the other hand was a scenario too, maybe, that it was an effort to, hey, this is my territory, get out of here. And so I don't know. But I do know that it wasn't a human being or another hiker of some sort that was up in that area, because we legitimately were the only ones in that area. Something was flanking us, is that's my impression that I got. And from interviewing Dalton, Tim, and others there, and assessing the whole scenario there, it would seem to me that maybe something didn't want us there. That night, anyways. A few days later, we ended up going back up there. And this was interesting because we had another interesting type of encounter, if you will, vocalization. And that consisted of us being back up there on the trailhead. As we're coming out of the trailhead, I distinctly remember, and I heard this as well as another gentleman that was there with us, hearing a grunt. Almost like a real deep, but very distinguishable, you know. It was almost like, it's hard to replicate, but I do know that it was a grunt. Again, no other hikers up in the area while we were there. But even more interesting than that is, as we were almost to exit the trailhead, to my left, up on a hillside covered with pines, I hear and it almost sounded like it was disappointed, whatever it was, that we were leaving the area. And the best that I could say is, or replicate the sound of that, was kind of a, oh, almost like a, oh, you're leaving, but it was real deep and it was real loud. Initially, I thought that it was maybe some other hikers that were over there. That's initially what I thought. Oh, there's other hikers over there. Let's head over there. Talk to them. See what where they're hiking to, and so on and so forth. Walk over there, nothing. No hikers, no cars. Over in the parking lot, nothing that would indicate that hikers were in the area. And that was interesting because it was deep and I heard it. Very, very vocal, but very deep. And again, I can't replicate it. It's just these vocalizations are just so different, but they almost sound so human-like, but they're different at the same time. I don't know what's to be said about that. All I know is that do these things, whatever they are, presumably Sasquatch, but have they locked in on us now? Do they know who we are? Do they know that, hey, we are in the area and we have a vested interest in this area? What's the outcome going to be? One of two things. Is it going to be hostile? Is it going to be congenial and just curious, or more curious about us than we are of it? I don't know. But I know that we heard two vocalizations, too. And that second one really got me because I really legitimately thought that it was another hiker or someone in the area. And that proved to be not the case. So I'm left to really feel or have this deep sense of feeling that there's more up there than I'm thinking. How many, I don't know. But going back to the night where the rock throwing incident occurred, the likelihood of having been flanked that night, it's kind of scary. I didn't get any, and none of us, that's the thing, you hear so much of people who experience terror or uneasiness or feelings of dread or just feelings that are not consistent with your surroundings. Those change. you hear so many accounts of that, but none of us experienced any of that. None of us felt dread, fear, anxiety, nothing like that. It was just calm, collective, dark, silent, and then this happened. But I'm not here to suggest that every Sasquatch encounter prior to is supposed to have those experiences or those feelings associated with it. Everyone's encounter is different, and that's what I've come to learn and understand, that just because one person has an encounter and they experience the forest going completely silent, no birds, no squirrels, no nothing, and then followed by a feeling of dread and fear, and then they have their encounter, that's not the case for all. A lot of cases are out there where excuse me, hikers, campers, recreationalists are out there and they just come up on these things, or these things come up on them, or they're being flanked and there's no feelings associated with that of fear or this or that. None other than when they do actually have a face-to-face encounter. It's just of astonishment. What am I looking at? For all intents and purposes, this thing looks like a human being other than the face. Arms are longer. It's covered in hair. It looks kind of like a gorilla in the face. I mean, there's so many different variations of these accounts, and not one is the same as the other. And that's what's so intriguing about this mystery, about this phenomena, is that trying to put your finger on the dot as to what exactly is going on here, how many there are, what types of variations there are, it's almost impossible. In all my studying and research, if you want to call it that, and so on and so forth over the last couple of years, I've come to find out for myself that I don't know what type of creature I'm going to come across if I ever have that opportunity. I don't even know what type of temperament. Sometimes these encounters are very hostile, aggressive, bluff charges, things of that nature. While other encounters, you hear that they are very congenial, very more of a curiosity, that they're poking their head out from behind the trees, standing behind the trees, rocking back and forth behind the trees, letting themselves know that they're there, but keeping their distance. For all intents and purposes, these things are the masters of their domain. And when I look out here, I can't help but think, that these things are brilliant out here. Are they as smart and intellectual as a human being? Absolutely not. I don't believe for a minute that they are. But they are of an intellect that's higher than that of a typical animal, that they can reason, they have conscience, they can do things that typical animals cannot do. Bear, deer, badgers, whatever, you name it, go down the list. They can reason. There's understanding. So many hunters have looked these things in the scopes of their rifles, and for all intents and purposes, they everything about it kind of has human characteristics, but then not. And then in the face, covered in hair, a large brow ridge, commonly no ears seen, little facial hair, Neanderthal looking in some cases, in a lot of cases. But a lot of these hunters will say that they can't pull the trigger. Can't pull the trigger because when they're looking into the eyes of these things, it would appear to them or seem to them that there is a intelligence behind that. Because I know for a fact there's no problem with pulling the trigger on a bear, deer, cougar, anything like that. So it begs the question. There's so many unanswered questions out there, and I have so many for myself. But I think knowledge and gaining that understanding, at least, of other people's experiences, that led up to it, is absolutely essential for when I'm out here, because those are all things that you take, you digest, and it's an encyclopedia in regards to this phenomena of what to listen for, what to look for, and so on and so forth. I can't stand here before you and say that I haven't had an experience, because I feel like I have, even though it hasn't been face to face with one or anything like that. But with the tree structures I've seen, the tree breaks that are 12, 13 feet high for no apparent reason, fresh green trees at that, makes no sense. It wasn't snowfall. With the hollers and the screams, and most recent, the ones in Bear Canyon, but up even in the Uintas, having heard the screams up there in the Uintas. And I've talked about that in my previous videos. Elk bugling back and forth through the canyons. Coyotes doing their thing. And then right after that, we hear this. I'm not even trying to replicate it, because you can't. It sounds like a lion and a human and whatever else, with the lung capacity of who knows, raging up the canyon. And I'm telling you what, it shut that canyon down like none other. And we scouted around that whole night. We went from one ridge line to the next. About 3 in the morning, we went to a saddle on one of the ridge lines up there in the Uintas. Shut off the side-by-side. It was quiet, dead quiet. No campers, nothing like that. I get out, we're standing there. It is pitch black. I mean, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. And I walk over to the tree line and I whistle. And if you're wondering or asking yourself, well, why is he whistling? The reason is because these things have been known to mimic people's voices, whistling, animals, things of that nature. But it never sounds like whatever it is it's trying to mimic. And I get up there to the tree line, and I go, 4 seconds later, I tell you what, that kind of freaked me out. It did freak me out. It freaked all of us out. What was to be said about that? I have no idea. Was it a whistling bird? I know they're out there, but they're not native here. Birds were nesting. Typically all birds nest at night. But to get that type of reaction, I don't know if there's animals running around here that whistle back when you whistle at them, or have that cognitive type of thinking to be able to do that. I'm not aware of anything like that. If somebody is, then please throw a comment in the comment section. It was weird. Again, do I jump right to the fact that it was a Bigfoot? No. It's weird though. Okay? And having researched and gaining an understanding of what other people's experiences are and have been with these things, whether it's on their properties, in the woods, or whatever, and having heard whistling and so on and so forth, then, plausible, yeah, it could have been. Just as it very well could have been a Squatch the night that Dalton got hit in the back of the head. And as fascinated as I am with this whole subject matter, I don't wish any harm or danger or anything like that to be inflicted or implemented on any of the people that I'm with. Now, if it's just me, I don't have a problem with it. I know the risks that are associated with this. And so therefore, I'm not so much concerned for myself as I am concerned when I'm out there on an expedition with other people. I feel like I'm trying to safeguard them, but also listen and do everything that there is to be doing with the whole reason why we're out there. So that's my concern with going on expeditions with others, is their safety. For me, I've already weighed the risk. I've already, whatever happens, happens. I've come to grips and terms with that. And that's why I'm out here. Bar none, I don't have any hesitation whatsoever. Whatever encounter I may have, whether it's hostile or whether it's calm, collective, congenial, whatever it may be, I'll take whatever is thrown at me. Do I believe that people have gone missing because of these things? Absolutely. Absolutely. You never hear anything more about them. National parks, the missing 411, all that stuff is associated with it. But I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to take that risk because I legitimately have a dedicated mindset to seek out the truth in terms of what is this thing. Okay, I hear about it, I read about it, I see alleged videos of Bigfoots in the forest and so on and so forth, which you can take with a grain of salt. I don't know. No matter what picture, video, or anything like that, or what's being said, it's never going to be enough to convince the general public that this is out there. It's going to have to take someone dragging in a body. And people are always saying, well, how come we haven't caught up with these things? It's a good question. I have the same question. If something's like 8 or 10, 12 feet high, 800 or 900 pounds, how come it's that we cannot catch up with these things? And yet there's so many people out there having these experiences and encounters with these things. I don't know. There's just something more to it. There's a lot more to it. And I think that down the road, as people are looking more into the subject matter, that these things will start to evolve and unfold for our understanding. But it's going to take people to be out there and to talk about it and to give knowledge to people. And that's what I hope this channel will do. You know, I guess the channel isn't here to convince anybody whether there is or not. This channel is to solidify in my mind of my journey and my expedition into the subject matter to determine for myself. Do I have my mind set up? I don't think necessarily that it's set up for it. I just know that we haven't discovered everything that there is to be discovered here on this planet. I refuse to be that narrow-minded and that closed-minded to believe that we have discovered everything that there is to be discovered. I refuse to accept that. I refuse. Because then you dismiss and you discredit millions of people who have encountered, and I'm not just talking Bigfoot stuff, I'm talking about paranormal and other stuff that just, even in my mind, is completely off the grid. But can I dismiss that? No. Because people are legitimately seeing things and coming across things that they cannot identify, reason with, or even categorize it. And so that's what I hope that this channel will be, is a safe haven for people who maybe are contemplating about coming forward with their stories or their encounters, or maybe what they've heard or what they've seen, or, oh, that seemed weird, or going back in their mind and thinking, yeah, I remember that one camping trip, something did happen. I want this channel to be where it's a safe haven. No ridicule, no laughter, no pointing fingers, no you're crazy or anything like that. That's not what it's about. So nice up here. I could stay up here forever. I think the truth will eventually unfold down the road. This has been an ongoing phenomenon. And we're not just talking a couple hundred years here. We're talking about when you get past all the internet sensation of it and the media sensation of it, and you really start digging down into different cultures, not only nationwide, but worldwide. They all are depicting some sort of being with different variations, but very similar characteristics. What's to be said about that? I don't know. So that's what I focus on. That's where I kind of take my first step, is going back hundreds, thousands of years. It's not like people were sending emails and other social media platforms back then to let everyone know, hey, this is what we're seeing. It wasn't like that. For sakes and purposes, a lot of them didn't even know the existence of each other. Yet when you go back into their record, they're all describing these beasts, 8 to 10, 12 feet high. What's to be said about that? If you're religious, if you're Christian, believe in the Bible, then you'll know that giants existed in ancient times. It's a known fact. So there's a lot of crisscrossing, when you start studying this matter. You have to look at it from all different aspects. You can't look at it in one linear aspect. You just can't. You got to look at it. And you have to be objective about it too. I get it. I try to be objective. But all we can do is be out here. All we can do is continue on. And one day, that's all we can do. But I do know this, by not being out here and by not taking the initiative to seek and search for the truth, for personal validation, by not being out here, it would never happen. At least I'd be one step further than just sitting at home doing nothing, believing the mainstream and just being a sheep and a follower. I'm not going to be that way. I refuse to be that way. I'm not just going to be a follower of what the government or anybody else tells me. I'm not going to be that. And to think outside the box is absolutely crucial. Too many people that I can't dismiss personally who have had these encounters. Who am I to say? Even with this rock incident in Bear Canyon, as many people as I've told, I get the blank stare in their eyes and like, you're crazy. It was just another person. No, it wasn't another person. You don't understand. But trying to convey that to them after the fact, again, you can't change what a person knows. You can't. And if that's all I do for the years to come, is be out here and to look around and nothing comes of it in terms of a face-to-face encounter, then you know what? I'm okay with that, because I haven't robbed myself of the beauty and the serenity that the forests have to offer. It's a good detox to get out here and think and to remember life is short. Life is short. There's a lot of mysteries in it. And it's okay to delve into those mysteries.